for later. I want to look at some essays. Your paragraphs are terrific, but honestly, they read like you guys spent a lot more than 5 minutes on them, you know, which is fine. That's great for practice, but they're so damned elegant. I do want to look at a couple of them. I have not commented on them because I've been kind of lazy. Hey, Greg, finally. Greg, Christian, Josh, and Carter. I was commenting earlier on how all the girls show up on time, and the guys just going to drag their butts in here. But anyway,
hey man, I was like the first one on last time and the last one to leave. So
that's true. That's good. Hey, Greg, hey, how's it going?
I'm good.
I like your turtles.
Didn't I see Lucy? Who are we missing? I'm missing Lucy, Nick.
Lucy's not coming.
What's that?
Lucy's feeling a little under the weather, so she's not coming.
Is she sick or COVID-19 sick?
Not COVID-19 sick, just like, I think it's just allergies.
For sick wasn't good.
What's that, Kat?
I said I'm surprised sick didn't mean corona.
Yeah.
Sick was different.
Yeah. Do you guys know of anybody who's actually feeling like they might have the,
Yeah.
There's a few members in our community that a lot of us know that just like haven't really been talked about.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I don't need to know. I'm sure some people.
Ooh, did everybody sign up for their testing? I have the link.
I did.
Well, can you check the link, Kat?
Will you send it?
Yeah, I could use help as well.
Mrs. Lavender and I are actually getting tested this afternoon. So.
Oh yeah, teachers get.
Yeah.
Lavender, see you there. That's where I'm going.
Same, that's where I'm going too.
At 1 o'clock.
I won't be down there till.
Wait.
I won't be down there.
How do you know when you need to get tested?
Today
We're
it's
housing members.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's because we're teacher kids. So.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so I want to look at some of your paragraphs, which are actually better. I've got 3 essays that we're going to read pretty quickly here. Look at the commentary. Unfortunately, the commentary is from it's old school. We'll look at a different rubric and a different prompt on Tuesday, which is the next time we'll meet. And again, I hope you all know that tomorrow is actually a day off. We finally get a 3-day weekend. Hooray. Not much compensation compared to a 2-week break, but oh well.
I assume if we have like the essay revision stuff, that's still due 1 week.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Because I've got quite a few, I'm doing independent studies with 4 different kids in addition to my classes and sci-fi and stuff. So I'll be honest with you, Josh, I am in no rush. I'm looking forward to those papers. Samantha just asked for a little extra time on hers because she was trying to find some of the quotations I was talking about. And that's fine. I don't want you guys to blow this off. But these
Did you get mine?
What's that?
Did you get mine? I don't know if it was if I did it right.
I got Linea's, I got Lily's, I've got a bunch of them. I haven't even opened my email. I'm just saving those messages. So I did get them, I think, but I didn't actually look at it.
How do you want it? Do you want it emailed to you? Is there a Schoology submission?
If you want to use Schoology submission, if you want to share it on Google Docs, just make sure you share it with, unfortunately, the lavdog@gmail.com. Or you can just email it to me as an attachment. Okay. That's fine too. Anyway, but again, I'm not super worried about this. We're certainly not. This is not an era in which I'm going to be obsessed about deadlines. So don't sweat that. And again, I was super impressed with the paragraphs you posted. All of you who did post them, Christian. Anyway, so let's look at this. So these are. Hey Nick. So these are. Can you guys all see that?
Yep.
Yep, you can see it. Okay, good. So here's 3 essays. I want to read through, mostly looking at the opening paragraphs. We can zip through the rest of the essay. If it's hard for you to see on a small screen or something, I'll go ahead and read them anyway. Oscar Wilde once observed, quote, "Disobedience in the eyes of anyone who has read history is man's original virtue. It is through disobedience that progress has been made, through disobedience and through rebellion." Comments on that opening sentence?
It's the full quote, which seems,
Pointless.
yeah, like why? We just read it.
Pointless. Again, under normal circumstances, when you had, and I don't know what's going to happen this year, when you had the 1,200, teachers sitting there pounding through essays for 7-8 hours a day, they're so familiar with the quotation that you don't really need to include it. I mean, you can, quote bits and pieces of it, but yeah, it's kind of pointless. So most readers can just zip by that and get to history has shown that different forms of rebellion result in the basic human rights we have today. It's also seen in modern day where people are currently making history and breaking the norms of society. Without disobedience, society would never progress as a whole. Again, none of these paragraphs are as good as any of yours. But to be fair, they're actually written in a testing environment with the 40-minute, the time constraint. Not bad. I mean, this is enough. It's pretty blah. It's enough for, there is an argument. I want to look at some of your paragraphs in a second because all of them were good. Some of them almost sounded like mini essays. And instead of a thesis at the end of the paragraph, you almost had kind of a conclusion, although they read well. But so this is enough of a thesis. Obviously they're supporting, Wilde's view of disobedience, as almost all of you did. So it's like, again, I'm not sure with the new rubric how it's going to be going through. When I'm reading these essays, and I've said this before, whether it's the first essay I read in the day and I've got my coffee buzz going, or if it's the last essay before lunch and I want to get the hell out of there, I'm always starting off saying, back on the 9-point scale, this is at least a 5. It's at least a passing essay. Let me see, give me some reason to push it up, push it down. This would be an essay where after the opening paragraph, I'm still saying, well, maybe it's a 5. I'm assuming under the new rubric, which gives you 1 point or 0 points for having a thesis, that this would, even though it's kind of pedestrian, this would probably get a single point because it does.
Thank you.
Something that functions as a thesis. Do we want to read the rest or not? Where's my mouse? Uh-oh, I've lost my mouse. Hang on here. Whoops, sorry. Well, let's not read the rest because it's a really shitty essay. So this is what you want to notice. Page 2 of 2, boom, it ends. Again, length, like it or not, length is something you guys have to write fast and try to write a lot. We're trying to generate sort of, elegant BS and ideally have some pretty insightful observations in there as well. So this actually got this was a 4. This essay inadequately argues a position on the extent to which Wilde's claims are valid. So it recognizes there's a claim that the quotation is valid. While the single piece of evidence presented, Animal Farm has the potential to provide adequate support for the argument, the essay's explanation on how the evidence helps to develop the position remains insufficient. The connection between animals overthrowing their leaders and the idea of progress is vague. Likewise, the attempted analogy between the Animal Farm and Soviet Union does little to further the argument. In the third paragraph, the essay's attempt at a more philosophical approach. One of the important causes of rebellion is the ability to think clearly, is unconvincing and inappropriate. The prose generally conveys the student's ideas, but is inconsistent in controlling the elements of effective writing. So they're both looking at the actual argument you're making. They're looking at the appropriateness of the evidence that you bring to bear, how well you show that evidence supports the claim you're making, and they're looking at you being, they don't want a whole lot of sentence level errors. They want to see that you can actually write, solid sentences with interesting syntactical variety and not too many surface errors. Again, everybody's going to have surface errors. There's going to be a few, and don't sweat those. It's just the frequency of errors that hurts you. So this is a longer one. We see that this is already 2.5 pages, even though the handwriting's a little bigger. According to Oscar Wilde, disobedience is man's greatest virtue. That's enough. You don't have to do the entire quote, as Josh pointed out. Why quote the entire sentence? Through disobedience, he claims, progress was born. Looking back at history, there's clearly truth to Wilde's assertion. And that's probably just that one sentence will probably get you the 1 point. It's not a great thesis. Again, it's not as good as your theses, but it's enough. In society, disobedience promotes the questioning of societal norms, historical change, and progressive thought. Super short, but it's fine. This one is, you know, we can read a little bit of this. Wilde was not the only person who saw the intrinsic value of disobedience. That's good. Henry David Thoreau, a prominent transcendentalist writer, crafted an entire essay and life plan on the principles of civil disobedience. That's pretty good. Thoreau quickly developed his ideas regarding society and his disdain for conformity. These thoughts soon led to his actions as he spent time in prison one night for not paying his taxes. This form of civil disobedience was his way of challenging societal norms and prompting others to do the same. Transcendentalist thought became wildly popular, and as I've read both Thoreau's and Emerson's works in school, it has left a lasting impression of modern philosophy. It's kind of juvenile, but that's nice. That's not a bad paragraph. Nice transition. Hints of Thoreau's civil disobedience can be seen throughout, not throughout, the 20th century. His ideas led to the most pivotal historical changes. However, in the civil rights movement, which a lot of you guys mentioned is something you would write about, leading figures such as Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks urged African Americans to spark social and political change through acts of civil disobedience. They staged sit-ins, marches. And what I like about this isn't a terrific essay, but it's better than just passing. Is the level of specificity, which is nice. There's concrete nouns in here: sit-ins, marches, peaceful protests, all in the hopes of obtaining the civil rights they deserved. Their success is evident in the many social and legislative changes that followed the civil rights movement, or the most notable being the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I learned about all this. I wish this kid wouldn't talk about, I learned this in class. I learned about all this and more in my 5th grade field trip to the Civil Rights Museum. I guess that's not so bad. Where I purchased a t-shirt with the quote, "Well-behaved women seldom make history." I like that quote. That's good. I don't need to know about your 5th grade field trip, but oh yeah. And again, the idea of civil disobedience as a driver for historical change is clear. And this goes on. It's pretty good, pretty solid. We get into Bernie here, I guess, at the end. You know, despite the setback, Bernie's political thought has asked new questions about what the future holds for American politics. His views are decidedly anti-establishment, which harkens back to the nonconformist ideas of the transcendentalists, trying to make connections with earlier sections of your essay. That's always a good instinct. Bernie himself was even a supporter of Martin Luther King Jr., as evidenced by a photograph of him at one of his rallies. Even if Bernie does not win the Democratic nomination, this must be an old essay, the strength of his progressive ideas that were influenced by disobedience have a great chance of shaping the future of American society. Oscar Wilde's idea that disobedience is what drives progress is clearly an accurate one. Come back, sum up by just reconfirming your thesis. Disobedience has led people to question society, causing historical change and thinking progressive ideas. After all, we are the music makers and we are the dreamers of dreams. What? Okay, well, I mean, that's not bad, but
That was a terrible ending.
I'm not sure why that's added in there.
You try to make something out of nothing.
Right, exactly. And if you try too hard, I mean, they want you to try, and they understand, given the time constraint, that this is what you're going to be doing, is trying to make something out of nothing. But yeah, don't be too obvious about it. But this got a 6, so this would have been an upper half essay. I don't know how that translates to the 5-point rubric. I think rather than a 3, this would probably be a 4 on the new scoring scale. But again, we haven't received much information about it. And they say this essay adequately argues a position on the extent to which Wilde's claims are valid, observing that disobedience promotes the questioning of societal norms, historical change, and progressive thought. The essay presents 3 adequately developed pieces of evidence surrounding Henry David Thoreau's civil rights movement, the 2016 election, that are sufficiently connected to the claims. So again, you're not just throwing out examples, you're showing how that example, after your discussion of it, supports your thesis that you'd offered at the outset, so that the connection is really important. In the second paragraph, the essay's discussion of Thoreau yields adequate commentary about his ways of challenging societal norms. In the third paragraph, its treatment of civil rights movements produces some sufficient explanation. So again, they're still using adequate, sufficient. And the reason for that, I think, is not the arguments that are being made. I think ultimately, on some level, for the readers, it's the actual writing itself. And this writing is fine. It's actually better than average, but it's not that much better. It still kind of seems kind of young. What does he say? The student then moves to the current election cycle, and the essay's treatment of Bernie Sanders ends with an adequate comment regarding the impact of disobedience. While the prose contains some lapses, it's generally clear. For appropriate evidence, adequately developed argument, and clear prose, the essay was scored a 6, which is fine on the old, on the old scoring rubric. But we're shooting for 7s. But if, and again, this is the essay. Question 3 should be, if we were writing 3 essays, question 3 ought to be your strongest essay, because you guys get to let loose. You're not worried about the citing this stuff and the synthesis essay and whatnot. Let me see this. One more, then we'll switch to your paragraphs. Where is this? Okay, look, page 2 of 4. And again, this is the highest scoring essay. There's no question that length counts. Anyway, so here's the opening paragraph. Newton's first law states that an object at rest will stay at rest, while an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by a force. The last part of that is crucial. Nice use of a semicolon there. Only by applying a force will the motion of an object change. In a similar vein, it is through disobedience and rebellion that social progress can be made. So that's pretty quick, pretty short. Again, not as good as yours, but it's got a nice analogy. It's not belaboring or reiterating the prompt. The readers know what the prompt is. They're reading your essay with the back. As long as you got disobedience and rebellion in there, and a clear thesis, which is not just, Oscar Wilde is right, but it's kind of trying to make Wilde's argument this writer's own. So even though it's brief, it's pretty good. The easiest example of American disobedience is the Stamp Act of Congress. The American people were furious with the British for enacting the Stamp Act. This is the first direct tax on the colonies after a period of
Salutary neglect.
Salutary? Okay, that's good. The tax, thanks, Christian. The tax itself was not that big of a deal. Rather, it was the act of taxing that got everyone mad. They declared no taxation without representation. They got the Stamp Act repealed. Only had the British issue the Declaratory Act in response. However, it was with disobedience. Okay, good, thanks. I was worried that we'd lost sight of the prompt here. Disobedience that the British decided to repeal the Stamp Act. I'm not sure I follow that. With this,
through
as a result of
disobedience, the British.
A result of the colonists' disobedience. Okay. Otherwise, it would have set a precedent for the British. Blah 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 blah. This guy goes on. And let's look at another example further down in American history was the fight for civil rights. You guys all mentioned this. This includes the notable Montgomery bus strikes and freedom riders and diner sit-ins. Both were examples of civil disobedience. For the Montgomery bus strike, Black people in Montgomery, Alabama did not take the bus until they were promised equal sitting rights. For the freedom riders, they assisted in the dinner sit-ins. They would sit in diner sit-ins and wait to be served. And it would not be served because it's all right. This is kind of bullshit. I don't know. But it's long, it's lengthy, and the sentences sound. Does this sound like a more mature writer, a more accomplished writer than the 6th essay? Again,
yes.
It's not.
He writes like a mature writer.
Yes, and this is what we're looking for. We're looking for that voice, that confidence. A lot of this is just, kind of reciting my history lessons, but it's reads pretty well. More recent examples of civil disobedience include the Yellow Umbrella Rebellion in Hong Kong and the Black Lives Matter campaign in the U.S. Yellow Umbrella. Okay, now I can tell you all about this. Let's get to the end here. Similar to America Fighting, Americans are raising awareness of racism, blah, blah. Black Lives Matter uses mass media to thrust into people's faces the uncomfortable and ugly truth of racism against Black people. This includes using protest social media. let's look at the conclusion. The event separating the way things were and the way things will be is disobedience and rebellion. That's two events. Okay. For people to realize there's a problem, the problem must be brought to their face. Once a problem has been identified, the only way to change things is to actually change them via rebellion or legislation. Disobedience is a key to social change. I didn't like this essay quite as much. It's better than the 6. It's not that much better than the 6. I think they gave this one an 8. Let me see. Sorry. This essay effectively, so not adequately, but effectively argues position by the extent to which, while its claims are valid, using an analogy between physics and politics to support the claim that it is through disobedience or rebellion that social progress will be made. The student proceeds to substantiate this claim with appropriate and convincing evidence and explanations. The first paragraph, blah, 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 blah. The student offers insightful. Here's what they like. Although they seem like small steps, these efforts were part of a larger effort to get America to realize that segregation was wrong. That's not a particularly great sentence. In the fourth paragraph, the student presents 2 more examples, blah, blah, blah. Characterized by clear organizational structure and smooth transitions, the essay provides convincing evidence that connects disobedience to the advancements of social progress. While it contains a few syntactical flaws, the essay demonstrates a consistent ability to control the elements of effective writing. So this would get an 8, and clearly under the new rubric, this would get a 5. So I don't know. Again, I think yours are better. Comments on those? Comments? Anything? Carter, Charlotte? No? Josh? Chloe? Yeah. Again, I wish to heck I knew what essay we were going to be writing, come May or whenever. But let's look at
still 45 minutes too.
As far as I know, Christian, and we're not going to know anything till the 3rd, which is like the end of next week. And once we have that knowledge, we'll be able to kind of move forward in a more consistent way or maybe a more productive way. But for now, I want to look at this sec here. My mail. These were, we can't look at all of these. These are really good, but let me look at it. This is good. Let me start with, now again, you guys, some of you had I know Jesse had, I think, a dictionary definition. You guys aren't going to have dictionaries. You're not going to be able to do that. And I don't know if Natalie ran to her bookshelf to get this quote or if it was in her head. Are you still there, Natalie? Natalie may have dropped off because her internet, she says, is really messed up. Anyway, as said in the book Walls and Peace by Banksy. Banksy is the.
Oh, isn't that like some?
It's Banksy.
Yeah,
Banksy. He's a street artist. He's a street guy. He's a street artist.
Yeah.
The greatest crimes in the world are not committed by people breaking the rules, but by people following the rules. Great way to reinvest the whole Oscar Wilde quote. Recalcitrant has recently become my favorite word, as it means having an obstinately uncooperative attitude toward authority or discipline. This sort of headstrong attitude has allowed misspelling both the individual and the many directions of humanity. I'm not sure what that means, to blossom. It results in results in movement and external and internal flow and develops the collective human condition. I believe it's dangerous to settle for anything that neglects or challenges our unalienable rights, anything that challenges individuality or having and using a voice. As Banksy said, should be a period or a semicolon there. As Banksy said, it is somewhat, should be one word, of a crime. It is vital to recognize the many forms of disobedience, civil, peaceful, violent, drastic, or simple, period, probably, or something. Change is made in the hands of a single person saying a single unexpected word. That's nice. Or a crowd screaming an entire flood of passion and mischief, misspelled, for a cause, for a purpose. Disobedience is one of the greatest human virtues. I can't imagine a world without it. Love all the language there, Natalie. If you're still there, that's terrific. Some of those phrases are great. But again, that's probably looks less like, this looks like a very short essay, because the last sentence there, or last 2 sentences, it should be 2 sentences, it's a comma's place, really seem more almost like a conclusion. This is, how about this? Claire's we didn't see any of the writers do this, but I think this is a good way to use questions to frame an argument and then come in and suggest what your answer to those questions might be. When people hear the word disobedience, they often think negatively of it. But is all disobedience negative? Where would society be if Rosa Parks did not disobey the norm and sat down and sit down for what she believed? I believe that without revolutionaries like Rosa Parks, our society would be stuck in an 1800 mindset about racial equality. Disobedience is a vital part of improvement in society, and Wilde says it's best. I'm not sure, again, you have to quote the entire thing. But I'd like this. Disobedience drives our society to improve and forces us to think our values. I'm sorry, to rethink our values. So that's good. But again, had Claire, if you had thrown some, and nowhere is this more evident than in, than in the civil rights movement. And then you can come to the haters, you can come to the political stuff later. But again, I think just to have that one example in that last sentence of your opening. Let's see. This is kind of small. These are all good. And you guys, I'm glad you read most of them. How about the connotation? This is kind of like Claire's open. It's almost like although some people say blah, 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 subordinate clause in which you phrase the opposing view and then grammatically cut it off at its knees because it's in an incomplete, it can't stand alone as an incomplete independent clause. The connotation of disobedience is hardly positive. The word conjures conjures images of stern tellings off, probably don't need that apostrophe, by angry parents and other disappointed authority figures. And this is no accident. Nice use of semicolon, we're going to love that. Disobedience can and has caused many problems. Acknowledging the opposing view and then coming in with your own view. That's a good strategy. Everything from Windows, and again, look at all the specificity here. This is what readers love. Everything from windows broken by errant baseballs to literal wars have been caused by disobedience. So it'd be easy to simply dismiss it as some blanket evil, but that misses the point entirely. Disobedience is simply a tool. To make the assumption that it is a purely negative trait is to ignore the real truth that tools are neither good nor evil, and it is only their use, probably through their use, that they gain some moral slant. Disobedience's use as a tool lies in its ability to change the state of the world for better or worse. And Wilde, so I'm going to acknowledge that I read the prompt, and Wilde's interpretation of disobedience as the method through which progress has been made is merely recognition of the power that this tool possesses. And that's a really nice opening paragraph, Josh. So I'm not even worried that you don't throw out your first example, because I suspect the first line of your next paragraph, we see nowhere can we see this tool used more effectively than in blank or something. So I think this is good. These are good. I could read these all. Linnaeus, this is disobedience provokes change in a society, the mind, or a person. Whether disobedience is inherently bad or inherently good can depend on the circumstance. Disobedience is the failure to obey what you've been told. This isn't bad if what you've been told is wrong or misguided. Without the natural instinct to go against what you've been told to do in order to assert dominance or show your strength, our society would be the same as it was 800 years ago. And then the thesis statement, disobedience is a natural instinct to change what needs to be changed in order to make a better life. Nice, that's good. These are all good. Lily's, Caroline's, Nick's, these are Gregory's, these Sydney's, these are all good. But I don't want to, you guys can read them on your own. So I don't know, was this kind of an effective exercise or not? Would you mind doing this again, or do you want to write a full essay?
Yeah, this is fine.
Yeah.
Good.
Would you rather write a full essay?
No.
These
will
look like they were going to be
your offer.
potentially. I thought these were going to be great essays.
If I could exchange this for finishing my Angels of America essay.
No. One thing is America.
Okay.
I'm enjoying those. Okay, so here's what we'll do then. Because you guys got stuff to do. I got to go move a bunch of stuff into a long story. Anyway, we're not going to meet again until Tuesday. Tomorrow, you should take the day off. You should not look at your screen. Forget school, video games. Go out, read a book, take a walk. Hopefully you have some books in your house. I guess you can read it on your Kindle or something. I don't know. But yeah, so take 3 days off. Take deep breath, kind of recharge. 4 days off in terms of this class because we won't meet again till Tuesday. On Tuesday, we'll either give you another prompt, break into small groups, talk about the prompt, and then write a paragraph, or I haven't had a chance to look at them yet, but College Board has sent out these prepping for the AP videos. I don't know if those are going to include any insights into the new test or if this is just something they were going to roll out anyway. So I'm going to look at those, and we may, as an alternative to actually meeting as a class for even 20, 30 minutes, may have you, I may post those and have you watch them, but I haven't looked at them yet. Ms. Proud watched one of them. She thought it was okay, but I don't want to waste too much of your time. So if these videos are good, we might watch them. If not, I'll decide over the weekend. If not, then what we'll do is come up with another argumentative prompt. And because again, I think the argumentative essay's got to be at the heart of whatever they give us. So I think we're probably best off doing this. We might try a rhetorical analysis. Again, let's wait and see what they say. What's funny about that, Kat?
I thought it was mute. I was looking at Sydney and she made me laugh.
Sydney made you laugh?
Because Kat was
Yeah.
making faces into the camera.
Okay. If you guys want to hang out, I can leave this meeting. You can just chillax and talk to each other. But any questions, any comments, any concerns?
What time are we meeting on Tuesday?
So we're following the bell schedule. That's just
Oh, okay. Okay.
we basically meet on Tuesdays
Okay.
and Thursdays. Third period meets on Monday and Wednesday. My other class. Yeah, I'm just following.
We should expect to have a Zoom meeting every Tuesday and
Every
Thursday.
Tuesday, every Thursday. And Tammy, if there's ever a time when you can't make it, I should actually stop recording. Take forever to upload on it.